With the first pick overall, the New Jersey Devils are proud to select from the U.S. program, Jack Hughes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Heads Up Hockey, and it is Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and this could be the clincher of the season if Vegas scores the first goal and or just scores their way and defends their way to winning the Stanley Cup. Let's see if it does happen, because right now the Florida Panthers are playing without their very best player, in Matthew Tkachuk, who happens to be the cousin of Tom Fitzgerald. And Tom Fitzgerald's son is also playing in this game for the Florida Panthers, if I remember correctly. So, that being said, yeah, the Devils are looking for something in the NHL draft, and this free agent class doesn't look as good for forwards, but the trade market does look better. And the name that's been going around pretty much since the start of time is Ross Colton, the Robbinsville, New Jersey native. And, you know, it makes too much sense. I know I heard something out there that it was a report on Twitter saying that he's looking for around $4 million. So what? He's won a couple cups already. He is a go-to guy for the mid-six, bottom six, and he's earned his pay when needed to be clutch. And you know what? You got to pay those clutch guys. And what do I mean by that? I mean, look at Andre Palat. He's been there in the regular season and in the playoffs, scoring those timely goals and assists and being tough in the dirty areas, and you need that kind of presence. And even Ross Colton himself said that he emulates his game more so of Ryan Carter, who was a former New Jersey Devil when they picked him up on waivers during the 2011-2012 season. I just think of it this way, where the Devils are in position to do just about anything possible to make themselves a tougher out in the playoffs. And it's not a matter of if, but when Timo Meier does sign his extension. And I see the New Jersey Devils being a team that keeps those tough, gritty guys that can also score goals and produce points when they really need them. You look at the defense. No more Damon Severson. You have Simon Nemec is on the rise. You have Jonas Siegenthaler leading the way. You have Kevin Ball and Luke Hughes, who can interchange on the second and third line and maybe the first line. I mean, the Devils have a lot of competition for top line, bottom pairing defensive spots, which is great because when you have skill, talent, and depth and endurance, it just shows how deep you can be, not just in the regular season, but the playoffs. And when you have a really deep farm system with a lot of young talent, like Topias Wieland coming over from Liga in Finland. You have Daniel Misyul, the Belarusian from Minsk, Belarus, played for Lokomotiv Yaroslavl the past several seasons, almost a half decade in Russia. And he's definitely playing the part of a very physical defenseman who can clear the crease out and also rush the puck up when needed to. And he doesn't need to play a sexy game. He plays that downright gritty playoff game that you want day in, day out. Yes, you may draw a few penalties here and there, but you need someone who's going to play with authority, and the Devils need to have a player of authority. And the Devils are going to be a very, very tough team to go up against. Not trying to be a homer here, but definitely I do see Carolina being the top team. I still look at New Jersey as second in the Metro. I still see the Rangers probably switching with the Islanders if the Islanders add some key players in the offseason. I know Lou Lamoriello is pretty quiet. He doesn't tip his cap ever. And if he ever does get a leak out, he usually aborts the trade or move. And it won't happen. So I would say this. I still see the Rangers being the viable team for the third spot in the Metro. But I just have a funny feeling that Washington is going to be on the verge of trying to take that third spot in the Metro, but they fall short of it. Oh, wow. Stoner faked out Sergei Bobrovsky with a little fake. Oh, my God. The shake and bake. Stoner stoned him like smoking some hash. Oh, my God. What a goal. I'm telling you. Just that little fake for a few seconds, that little delay. It's like you don't know what to do. It's kind of like a play in the NBA where you think you got the guy who's dribbling the ball, moving left, you're going to cover your right. Instead, he beats you on your left side and scores. It's just, that's playoff hockey there. That's just like going for the dunk. And shout out to the Denver Nuggets. So I know this is a hockey podcast, but the Colorado Avalanche last year won the Stanley Cup. And you have the Denver Nuggets winning their first ever championship in their history, which is a huge thing when your team wins it all. And it goes to show the state of Colorado and the city of Denver have something special in their pro sports. And, you know, for me as a Devils fan, talking about the Devils winning Cups in 95, 2000, 2003, almost winning in 2001 and 2012, you know what? This team came from above and beyond their means from a season ago where they were labeled for second overall in the draft lottery after winning it. And just seeing that huge turnaround, Tom Fitzgerald proving that this team is no fluke and they got the tools in the toolbox, the skills, and the will to play in, day out. And if the Devils add a few key pieces, who knows if Ivan Barbashev doesn't take a hometown discount with Vegas and decides to go elsewhere. I mentioned him in a Pucks and Pitchforks article that he would be absolutely worthwhile for a physical guy that would play that kind of game. And the Devils need a Sasquatch, another extra Sasquatch besides Timo Meier and Kevin Ball and a few other guys that play physical. And it seems now that the Vegas Golden Knights are starting to pour it on offensively. And Jack Eichel scoring a nice, beautiful goal. I'm telling you, Jack Eichel suffered so much from his days in Buffalo. And with that massive trade, it's really come full circle almost for him to be an important cog in Las Vegas's very own quest for the Cup, for their first ever since their inception in less than 10 years. And it's something that when you build a team from, it doesn't have to exactly be an expansion draft, but when you add great overall players who want to be there, who play a physical game defensively, play responsible in their own zone, and who know what it takes to be answering the bell. And that what means for cool heads to prevail at the right time. So really, when you think about it, when you draft players, you look for those traits. And especially with the NHL Combine, it's something scouts look for, GMs look for, and you want to make sure that when you do get these guys developed, traded for, or even, pick them off waivers, you want to get the right guys that suit your style of play. And, this era of hockey is where you need to have a hybrid of physicality, finesse, and power. And defense is timeliness, and defense creates offense. And no, I'm not talking about the John Hines style of hockey. I'm talking about the playoff hockey that Vegas plays. And when you have so many guys that are willing to block shots, take up the passing lanes in the neutral zone, you slow down the other team, you make it easier for yourselves to transition back in your own zone and move the puck out a little bit quicker, and it makes you a lot harder to play against. Unless you make, stupid penalties, then you add some extra advantage. But I'm just saying this, that for those teams that already are a few pieces away of getting closer to the Stanley Cup and winning it, I think it was Fansided or DraftKings, they have the Devils winning it in 2024 and 2025. So I think that's an interesting take, given the fact that Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Meyer, and maybe Bratt resigns. Who knows if the Devils trade Jesper Bratt? I don't know if he stays. Most certainly, that's a hot take. But my hot take for Jesper Bratt is that he gets traded at the draft, either day 1 or 2, if he does not get an extension and does not want to be here. I know he said in the past that he wants to be here, but to me it sounds like the same old Zach Parise talk. And unless you put pen to paper, then I know you're a serious player. But once guys like Eric Holla get extended, you have these veterans that will be responsible for raising this team with a lot of young veterans and a lot of young rookies who are coming in their own. And definitely when you build a franchise for over a decade, it pays dividends. And, the Devils fan base, yes, over 77% over the years were in attendance on average. And this year, over 92% averaged. I am beyond excited. So when you build a winning product, you have a lot of loyal fans and you build more season ticket holders. And it's definitely taking off. And the Metropolitan, as my buddy Neil Villapiano calls it, the division of death, I also call it another type of division. I call it the division of competition and murder, because every time a rivalry is played with these East Coast teams in the Metro, they're looking like they're going to just tire each other out, play physical, and score a lot of goals here and there. And if you don't play your own game, you're going to get murdered offensively and defensively. And you got to have more than above average goaltending to bail you out. And this is why when the Devils struggled with subpar and very poor goaltending the past few seasons, before the 22-23 season, where goaltending was very stable, they weren't able to win very many games. So this is why I always like drafting at least a goalie in each NHL draft. And I admire Ray Shero, the predecessor of what is now Tom Fitzgerald. And they just keep continuing to draft goalies year in, year out. Just making sure these guys are confident in their development and succeeding guys like a Blackwood who aren't going to be around much longer. And ever since Martin Brodeur retired, Scott Clemmensen moved on, you need to keep bringing in the best of the best goaltenders you can find. And it's not that easy because it's really hard to make it to the NHL. That's one thing. But once you get these really good players, you don't want to stop developing and bringing them in. So I really think right now this game for the Las Vegas Golden Knights is very favorable to them. As long as they play their game, it's not going to go Florida's way. And I know Grigory Denisenko, the Russian sniper, is playing tonight in Matthew Tkachuk's place. But I don't see the Panthers playing with the same snarl and the same bite. And Vegas has a lot of timely veterans that can score and just Sasquatch their way through defensively with the hits and the blocks. And Aiden Hill, to me, is playing out of his mind. And Bobrovsky is a little bit off his game right now. But if he tightens it up and Vegas lets up a few goals, then it's going to be a close game. But right now it's still a close game, but it's starting to look a bit closer to a drought. But that's how I'm kind of feeling this game out. And if Vegas wins, season's over. Lord Stanley Cup goes to Vegas down the strip. And I definitely think it'll be an interesting party. And who knows what trade rumors and other free agent speculations happens. I mean, Ryan Graves might get traded. I mean, he's probably looking to fetch maybe a 4th or 5th round pick. I mean, look at Damon Severson. He fetched a 3rd round pick for a guy with his free agent rights. So if you wanted to get a guy who's an upcoming free agent, you have to get them before July 1st to try and negotiate a contract. And Severson got that sign and trade, the second ever sign and trade in the NHL. There needs to be more of those. I can't believe that. I know it's probably pretty hard, but more of those need to occur. I mean, it would make the league more interesting. But if there is a comeback player of the year, in my honest belief, it's Jack Eichel. Vegas doesn't get as far without him being healthy after his surgery, after the past few seasons. And he's starting to come into his own form. And definitely the former Boston University Terrier is definitely looking very good. And I know he didn't go first overall, but he is still a first overall pick in my honest belief. Even though you look at what guys like Austin Matthews have yet to win a cup. And it's just a strange feeling. But this is going to be good for the United States hockey, where guys like Eichel and Tkachuk play against each other, and several other players to be mentioned. and it's going to help grow the sport for quite a while. And definitely there will be some hockey programs where there'll be some non-for-profit money going in besides USA Hockey. But I really think this was a banner year for the NHL coming back into full swing in the post-COVID world. And Aiden Hill is playing like a Vezina goalie. If you looked at other goalies in the regular season, I would say Vanacek, Shesterkin. To me, Kochetkov has a good example to be one. Freddie Anderson, maybe. Definitely Aiden Hill at this point. And Samsonov, maybe, but I'm leaning towards Aiden Hill at this point because he's just so well-rounded right now, and I just think that it's just hard to beat him at this point. But I'll tip my cap to both teams in the playoffs in Vegas and Florida. But I really am excited to see what this NHL draft brings, but I do sense that certain Russian players from the KHL, VHL, and the MHL will slide a little further back than they should. And definitely, I think teams looking for a goalie like Stanislav Berezhnoy would be a good 6'4", 200-plus pound body. Would be a great pick out of Russia. I would also say in Sweden, Italian goaltender Damian Clara, 6'6", almost 220 pounds. Definitely a good wild card. One of the top European goalies in the top 10 goalie ranking. And Strahl as well from Modo in Sweden. So I see some interesting picks besides Michael Hrabal, Thomas Suchanek, Adam Gajan, and a couple others I have forgot to mention. But this is what I have for you for Heads Up Hockey. And don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe on YouTube. Give me a 5-star rating if you really like this podcast. And find me on Twitter. And you can find me on Twitter at JerseyJoe11_NJ. And so, thank you. Have a wonderful day. And I have the blog over at Pucks and Pitchforks.